Sec 3 NA Mathematics Chapter 5 Coordinate Geometry. Now we're going to do exercise part 1A today. And for today's part of the lesson, we'll be revising on the following concept. Number 1, given an equation, identify the gradient and y-intercept. How do we do that? Because we have the equation y equals to mx plus c. So this will be the gradient and this one will be the y-intercept. Next one, given an equation, find the x-intercept. Okay, so if we want to find the x-intercept, what happens to the value for y? So we want to find x-intercept, that means when y equals to 0, then we find x equals to something. Then what about the y-intercept? If I want to find y-intercept, that will be when x equals to 0 and we find y equals to something. Or maybe we can find an unknown by substituting values into the equation. Next one, we also recap a little bit on making points that forms a particular shape. For example, parallelogram, okay, a kite, right? And then next we find equation of a straight line involves 3 steps. How do we find equation of a straight line? Number 1, find the gradient. Then number 2, we use y equals to mx plus c. We sub in one point, sub in a point x and y. And then number 3, we write down the equation. Okay. And next one, find the length between 2 points. We know that this is given by something like the Pythagoras theorem. Something square plus something square. Then y2 minus y1 square over x2 minus x1 square. Now, if you recall upon these concepts, let us begin with the questions. Okay, in case you're wondering which worksheet is it, the worksheet looks like this. You have 3NA Coordinate Geometry Exercise 1. This was already given to you previously before we go off for holiday. Okay, I shall begin. Question number 1. The equation of a straight line is this. State the gradient of the line and the y-intercept. So if you have to do that, my equation is 4y plus 3x minus 2 to be equals to 0. I need to make y the subject. Okay, make y the subject. So I will express this as 4y to be equals to, if you do shift 3x over, you become negative 3x. And you shift minus 2 over, you become plus 2. But this is still not y yet. This is just 4y. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to divide everything by 4. That means I'll get negative 3 over 4. And x belongs to the numerator. Plus 2 divided by 4. 2 divided by 4 can be simplified to be half. And if that's the case, I'll be able to read the gradient. Y equals to mx plus c. This is the gradient m. And this is the y-intercept c. Okay, so in this case, to answer to our question, gradient equals to negative 3/4. Just the number, don't have the x. And the y-intercept is just the number half. Have you gotten the answer? Question number 2. A point negative 2, 5 lies on this line. Find the value of k. What does this point tells us? Negative 2, 5. This means the value for x is equals to negative 2. Y is equals to 5. So now what can I do? I can sub this into my equation. So I'll have 3 times x minus 4 equals to k times y. And the x number is now negative 2 and the y is 5. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Minus 6 minus 4, that gives me negative 10. Negative 10 is equals to 5k. Alright, then if that's the case, what is the value for k? K will be equals to negative 2. So this will be the equation. Now, the moment I know k is equals to negative 2, the equation now becomes 3x minus 4 equals to negative 2y. Okay, so now we replace the value k with the number -2. Now the line above cuts the x-axis. Okay, if I were to cut the x-axis, what happens? The y is equals to 0, correct? So now we will find the x value. So 3 times x minus 4 equals to -2 times 0. 2 times 0 is still 0. So 3x minus 4 is 0. 3x is equals to 4. You bring over, you need to change sign, and x equals to 4 over 3. Right? It cuts at A. Then they want the coordinates, right? Remember, they want the coordinates. So point A has the coordinates. X is the number, what we have found, 4 over 3. And remember, what's the value for y? We said y is 0. Okay, now we're going to do part B. Find the coordinates of point B. Now it cuts the y-axis. So if you cut y-axis, what happens? The x is equals to 0. So when x is equals to 0, I will have 3 times 0 minus 4 equals to -2y. Okay, and then what is this number? 3 times 0 is still 0, right? So this will be -4 equals to -2y. What is the value for y now? Y is the answer 2. And they want coordinates of B. So point B is the point. The x is the number 0. The y is the number 2. Have you gotten the answer? Question number 3. The diagram below shows the graph of a straight line ABC. The equation of this straight line is y equals to 2 over 3, 3 over 2x minus 4. Write down the coordinates of A. If I want the coordinates of A, let's take a look at point A. Point A cut which axis? Point A cuts the y-axis, right? So if it cuts the y-axis for point A, cuts y-axis means what happens to the x value? The x is equals to 0. That means I shall substitute this point into my equation. Y equals to 3 over 2 times x minus 4. And then find the y value. 3 over 2 times 0 is still 0. 0 minus 4 is -4. So that means at this point A, the coordinates, the x is the number 0, the y is the number -4. So the coordinates of A is 0, -4. Next one, part B. Write down the coordinates of B. Do you know how to find the coordinates of B? Now, taking a look at point B, B cuts the which axis? The line cuts the x-axis. So when it cuts the x-axis, what happens to the y value? The y now becomes 0. So that means I have my equation. Y is now 0. 3 over 2 times x minus 4. So what is my objective? I need to find what is x value. So 3 over 2x, I'm going to bring -4 over. It will become +4. Then I'll take multiply, cross multiply. Okay, 4 times 2 is 8. And 1 times 3x is 3x. So x is equals to 8 divided by 3. Now this is not a very nice number, but I'm not going to put in decimal place. I'll just use the exact value. So in this case, I want coordinates of the point B. I know the x coordinate is the number 8 over 3. And the y coordinate is the number 0. So this is the coordinates of the point B. Have you gotten the answer? Now part C. Part C says the coordinates of C are 10, n. Find the value n. What does this mean? The 10 here is actually the x number, the x value. What about n? n is the y value. So I'm going to use my equation, y equals to 3 over 2x. So the y is now n equals to 3 over 2 times x. The x is now the number 10 minus 4. So we're going to calculate this, 3 over 2 times 10 minus 4. And we get the value for n to be 11. Have you gotten the answer? Now these two concepts over here are very important. So when it cuts the y-axis, x is equals to 0, we find the y and then put it into coordinates. If we cut the x-axis, y is equals to 0, we plug in to find the value for x and then we get the coordinates. So please keep in mind this concept. Right, next, let's move on to the next question. Question number 4 involves a little bit of the drawing. Now the graph below shows the line PQ and the point R is 1, 4. Given that PRQS is a kite, I have to follow this labeling, okay? P go to R, PR, then R to Q, RQ, and then now I need to go to S. Now if this is a kite, what does a kite look like? So now if I have two squares over here, a kite is going to look something like that, right? So I'll have another two squares over here. So this will be my point S. So let me complete this diagram. It will look something like this. So write down the coordinates of point S. Point S, the x coordinate is the number 3 and the y coordinate is the number 6. So coordinate for S is part A, 3, 6. X first, then y. Find the area of triangle PQR. So area of triangle PQR, area is given by half times base. Now I only got this base over here, which is 2 square. I need a perpendicular height. Now Q is over here. How do I reach PR? So I have to go in a perpendicular distance. That means this is my perpendicular height and my base is only 2 units. But my height here is from the number 1 to the number 6. There's a total of 5 units. So the height is 5 units and the base is 2 units. So area of triangle PQR, part B, is half times base times height, which is 5 square units. Have you gotten the answer? Part C, find the equation of the line PQ. So in order to find the equation of line PQ, first we need the 2 points, P and Q. So P is the point. What's the coordinates of this point? P is 1, 6. Okay. And Q is the point. What's the coordinates of this point? Q is the point 6, 1. Oh, they look very familiar, isn't it? They look like almost the same. So please be careful when you read your coordinates. X first, then Y. So what are the 3 steps to finding the equation of a straight line? Number 1, find the gradient. What is the formula for the gradient? Well, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that gives me the answer, -1. So what does that mean? Step number 2, y equals to mx plus c. So our m, our gradient is now, m is -1. So this is -1x plus c. Now what can I do now in order to find the y-intercept? I need to know a point, isn't it? Either I can use P or Q, which lies on this same straight line. So P or Q, up to you. In this case, I'll choose probably point P then. 1, 6. So X is the number 1, Y is the number 6. So 6 equals to -1 times 1 plus C. So 6 equals to -1 plus C. I bring over the -1, it will become +1. So C is equals to 7. So the y-intercept is 7. What will be the equation of the line? Therefore, the equation is y equals to -1. Do I need to write the 1? So in this case, the 1 is invisible. X plus the number y-intercept is 7. So this is my equation. Have you gotten the answer? Okay, question number 5. Inside this diagram, we have P to be the number -3, -1. Q is -2, 2. R is a point on QR such that it lies on the x-axis. So if it cuts the x-axis, what happens? Y is equals to 0. So we know this, right? Now let us try to answer our question. They gave us that the equation for the line QR is 3y equals to -x plus 4. Find the equation of the line PQ. So in order to find the equation for line PQ, first P is the point -3, -1. Q is the point -2, 2. So we focus on these 2 points. What are the steps to get the equation of the line? First step, find the gradient. So to get the gradient is equals to y2 minus y1, 2 minus -1 over x2, -2 minus x1 minus -3. Be careful of the sign here, correct? And then add the brackets. So now this gradient will give you the answer. Gradient is 3. So now if I know the gradient already, step 2, I need to find the y-intercept. So now equation is y equals to mx plus c. The m is now the number 3. So gradient is 3. And then what can I do? I can substitute any one point. So maybe I'll choose point Q. Q is -2, 2. And that means x is the number -2, y is the number 2. So 2 equals to 3 times -2 plus c. 2 equals to -6 plus c. And c will be equals to, I need to shift -6 over, right? So it become +6. So 2 plus 6 will give you 8. So therefore, step number 3, the equation for the line is y equals to 3x plus the c is now the number 8. Have you gotten the answer? Part B, find the length of PQ. B, P and Q. So length of PQ is given by the Pythagoras theorem. Something square plus something square. What's inside the brackets? y2 minus y1. Be careful of the sign. x2 minus x1. Okay, be careful of the sign. So in this case, we have square root of, this is 1 square plus 3 square. And that gives me, okay, 3.1623. And then we round it off to 3.16, 3 sig fig for units. Now last but not least, they have given us the equation and asked us to find the coordinates of R. Now we know that coordinates of R down here, point R, cuts the x-axis. This R is on which line? This R is on the line with the equation 3y equals to -x plus 4. So what we are going to do, we are going to use this equation for part C. The equation is 3y equals to -x plus 4. If I were to cut the x-axis, the y value is equals to 0. So y is equals to 0. So 3 times 0 equals to -x plus 4. Our objective is to find x value. So 0 is equals to -x plus 4. X is equals to no need to do that. I can do it the other way around. Okay, I can shift negative x over here, right? So if I do this, when I shift over, it will change sign to become positive x. So positive x is equals to the number 4. Remember, the question wants the coordinates of r. So r comes in a pair of coordinates. What is the x value? The x number is 4. The y number? The y is equals to 0. So this will be the coordinates of r. Have you gotten the answer? Now, if you have gotten a little bit tired, please do give yourself a quick 2-minute water break, okay, before we continue with the next 2 questions. Okay, we will have 2 more questions before we end off our lesson for today. Now, without further ado, I shall begin with question number 6. Now, the diagram shows these 3 points, P, Q, R. Okay, it's a triangle, area of triangle PQR. So part A asks us to find area of triangle PQR. If I want to find the area of triangle, it's given by half times base times height. So I know that this is my base, but where is my perpendicular height? Point R is down here. I need to go down perpendicularly to touch the base. So my height is actually down here. This number is 8. This number is 2. Now, normally students will tell me they count 1 square, 2 square, 3 square. So this will be 3 units, right? But actually, this is not correct. Why is that so? Because the y value now is 8. And this y value here is 2. How many units are there here? The difference. There is actually 6 units. Now, why is it 3 squares but 6 units? Because each square represents 2 units. So we need to count by the y value number instead of just counting the squares. Now, what about the base? What is this number over here? The x number is 1 and the x number over here is 7. So if that's the case, how many units are there over here? From 1 to 7, there is also a total of 6 units. So area of this triangle is half times base, which is 6, times the height, also 6. So 18 square units. Have you gotten the answer? Part B, find the length of PR. Before we forget, P is 1, 2. So there are too many points here, so I wrote it down to keep myself focused. R is 10, 8. So they want the length of PR. We should use the Pythagoras theorem to help us. Something square plus something square. Then this will be y2 minus y1 square over x2 minus x1 square. So that will give me the number 10.8172568, and then we round off 10.8 to 3 significant figure. Have you gotten the answer? Now, next part of the question, part C, wants us to find the equation of the line QR. In case I forget and I get mixed up, Q is the point 7,2, R is the point 10,8. So I should keep myself focused. First step, what do we do? Okay, I think most of you are quite good at this question, isn't it? So first step will be to find the gradient. Okay, and then after that you find the y-intercept. Then you find the equation of line QR. Now I shall leave you to do this part of the question as your offline homework assignment today, so that I can go through some concepts and check your understanding for this part of the worksheet as well. So please complete this part of the question and send me your answers on Google Classroom later. Okay, now I'll move on to the next question. Question number 7. Now this question will be your offline homework for the day. But before I let you do it on your own, I'm going to go through a little bit of the questions over here. So now in this diagram, a straight line passes through the point x to be -1, 2, and the point y to be 4, 6. So maybe this is y 4, 6. I'm not sure. Find the length of xy. Do you think you know how to find the length of xy? What do you need to use? Yeah, we need to use the Pythagoras theorem. Find the equation of the line xy. Do you think you know how to find the equation of the line xy? Well, what are the 3 steps? First one is to find the gradient. Step 2 is to find the y-intercept and I sub in a point. Then step 3, I will need to write down the equation of the line. So that leaves us with the harder portion, part C. Okay, so how do we do part C of our question? Another line parallel to the y-axis. How do you draw a line that's parallel to the y-axis? What does it look like? Is it a vertical or a horizontal line? Which one does it look like, the y-axis? Well, a vertical, the y-axis looks something like that, isn't it? So it will be a vertical straight line. So if it's a vertical straight line, this straight line cut which axis? This line over here will cut the x-axis. So let's check. The equation of this line will only have x equals to something. Okay, and it tells me that this line passes through the point 6, 1. So there is a point on it 6, 1. If it's x equals to something, what is the x value? Okay, oh, it means x is actually equals to the number 6. So the equation of this line is x equals to 6. This is equation number 1. Now it tells me this line meets the line xy. Have you gotten the equation for xy? Well, where can we get the equation for xy? That will be from part B. So if you have gotten the equation from xy, that will give you equation number 2. Now they ask us to find the coordinates of the point A. Point A has 2 coordinates, the x value and the y value, which are unknown. I have 2 unknowns. How many equations do I need? I will need 2 equations. One, I have already found from here, the line that's parallel to the y-axis passes through this point, so it's x equals to 6. Where is the second line? It meets the line xy. And where can I get the answer? I can get the answer from part B. Right? So I shall use the equation over here, part B answer. And then what am I going to do to find the value for x and y? I need to solve the simultaneous equations. Okay, so this will be your offline homework for today. Try and get the answers. Take a picture of your answer and submit it in the Google Classroom for me to check. Alright, now we have come to the end of this part of the lesson for the day. You will be having quiz soon. Alright, see you for the next lesson.